Thank you for introducing me to the participants of the refresher course. The topic on which I will deliberate today is globalization and transnational mobilization. As the topic is directly related to the social movements, so I will like first of all to clarify about the notion of globalization, which is very complex and also a very macro level phenomenon. Uh, we all are aware that societies throughout the world are now passing through the process of profound and rapid change. This change is closely related with the process of globalization. In last one decade, this process is taking place in most of the countries of the world. Globalization refers to the increasing interdependence of the people across the world. It refers to the increasing impact of living and working in a single global marketplace. But more fundamentally, it refers to a basic shift in the institutions of our lives. It has given rise to a debate among the social scientists on the one hand and the policy makers on the other. To assess the impact of the processes associated with this wider phenomenon on social and cultural institutions of the societies, not only in the developed society but also in academic and political forums of the developing societies, particularly those who have adopted policy to privatize and liberalize their economy in the recent past. The today's topic is very much related to this policy of globalization, privatization, and liberalization, how it has given rise to a number of the social movements. The concept of globalization we can define at the most general level. It refers to a process of change which affects all regions of the world in a variety of sectors, including the economy, technology, politics, media, culture, and environment. According to Held, globalization may be thought initially as the widening, deepening, and speeding up of worldwide interconnectedness in all aspects of the contemporary social life. So, if somebody asks me what is globalization, I would say it is the widening, deepening, and speeding up of the worldwide interconnectedness, which is increasing day by day in all aspects of the life. There is a general agreement among the scholars on the interconnected dimension of the globalization, but beyond this, they differ from each other uh, on the dimensions of globalization. The commentators or scholars on globalization can be identified into three broad categories. They are hyper globalizers, skeptics, and third are transformationalists. Hyper globalizers believe that globalization represents a new epoch in human history. Their stand is that the era of modernity is over and we have now entered into a new era of human history, and in which all types of relations are becoming integrated at the global level and transcending the nation states and making it increasingly irrelevant. Ever increasing cross border flow of capital, commodities, people, and ideas are defining factor of new age. The four important things regarding globalization is transnational flow or cross border flow of capital, number two, commodities, third, peoples, and number four, ideas. We can see that it is increasing, this cross border flow is increasing day by day. Hyperglobalizers can be further divided into two subcategories: positive hyperglobalizers and negative hyperglobalizers. Positive hyperglobalizers believe uh, that the open and global markets will guarantee optimal economic growth and in long run will bring about improved living standards for everyone. So they are very uh, optimistic about the consequences of globalization, while the negative hyper globalizers are mainly critical theorists and neo Marxist scholars. And they focus upon the negative impacts of globalization in a critical manner and rejected the notion of globalization in its totality. So we have two set of scholars among the hyper-globalizers. One, those who are highly optimistic, and the others are highly pessimistic about the consequences of globalization. Then, second category of scholars are skeptics who also focus on economic aspects of globalization and argue that there is nothing new about this international economic integration, and it is comparable to the period preceding to First World War. They generally prefer the term internationalization to globalization, and they also argue that the role of nation state remain as stronger as ever. So they are also not very comfortable with the term globalization, and they say this is nothing but internationalization, which has already taken place before the First World War in the world, that is during the colonial period. Third category of scholars are transformationists who argue that globalization is the central driving force behind the major economic, cultural, social, and political changes that are affecting virtually all the world's people today. Globalization is seen as the overall consequences of closely interlinked processes of change in areas of technology, economic activity, governance, communication, and so on. Development in all these areas are mutually reinforcing or reflexive. The reflexivity is one of the important characteristic of globalization. Reflexivity can be explained that it is very difficult to draw a distinction between cause and effect, and it is a kind of teleological exploration in which you cannot say which is cause, which is effect. For example, the argument whether uh, hen has come first or egg has come first. So we cannot say because hen emerged from the egg and then it produced eggs. So in this type of, when you are not able to which is the cause, which is the effect of that, so it will be difficult to draw the causal explanation, and which has been a very common or very important task for any social scientist, that you have to uh, give causal explanation of the phenomenon. That what is the cause and what is the effect, and that you have to see, because the that's why the historical data is always important in social sciences, because historically the cause will emerge first and the effect or consequence will be seen later on in series of time. So, in this way, we are aware that the Max Weber, particularly, he talks of historical comparative method for explanation of the different phenomena. So, he said that we can examine historically, and then we can see that what kind of changes have taken place and what have been the causes of a particular phenomenon, and later on we can find out this causal relationship. Durkheim also talks about this kind of explanation through concomitant variation. Marx also talk about the historical materialism in which he has given materialistic interpretation of the history. So now global scholar of globalization, particularly hyper globalizers, they are also claiming, like postmodernists, that it is the end of history. This is end of modernity. But transformationists are not of the view that this is the end of modernity, but they are of the view that modernity is continuing, but it is transforming itself into a higher stage. Another important thing is that uh, they are of the view that the transnational flows are integrated virtually all countries into a larger global system and thus bring about major social transformations at all levels. Therefore, the process of globalization is not confined to economic and political concerns of the society. Its impact can also be observed in the field of mass media communication and other social and cultural institutions of the society. So now we have to, if we see on this, that how, what is the relationship between uh, these two phenomenon, that is globalization and the transnational social movements, or what kind of social movements have emerged as globalization. And when we talk of the global social movements or transnational social movements which cover more than one nation, so we have to look into that how globalization and the social movements are interrelated. Globalization has one important dimension which facilitate the globalization, and globalization also facilitate that dimension, and that is the new communication technologies. If you look into the operation of the global information system, you will find that computer based technology and the internet, that is uninterrupted internet, or if you can transmit any message in real time, that is instantaneously, then this kind of global transaction and operations are possible. Today all the banking system, all the transactions, economic transactions are taking place without internet. We cannot think of the transaction. When you are making online transaction, in no time you are able to transfer money from one part of the planet to the other part of the planet. So this kind of planetary connectivity is the essential characteristic of globalization. And without the support of new communication technologies, it is not possible to operate for the global organizations or global or multinational corporations. So globalization is very much related to the informationalization. And what is important? Communication, it is information, passing of information one end to the other end. And you know that today economy is information drive economy. Whatever transaction you are making, you are getting information of that immediately on through email or through your mobile phone. So these communication devices are very important devices uh, for communication. And you can see that globalization and informationalization are enacted by networks of wealth, technology, and power and are transforming our world. So, globalization is transforming our world. They are enhancing our productive capacity, cultural creativity, and communication potential. They are, at the same time, they are disfranchising the societies. And as institution of a state and organization of civil society, they are based on culture, history, and geography. The sudden acceleration of the historical tempo and the abstraction of power in a web of computers are disintegrating the existing mechanism of social control and political representation. So it has direct implication. Globalization has direct implication on the mechanism of social control. Now we are not able to control the people, particularly the information. Flow of information cannot be controlled. And you see on social media different kind of narratives are on, and no government or no uh, agency can control unless you stop internet services. So there is no controlling mechanism. And political representation is also has affected because of these new communication technology. With the exception of a small elite of globopolitans, that is, those who are highly connected, people all over the world resent loss of control over their lives. Now, people don't have control over their lives, over their environment, over their jobs, and ultimately over the fate of the earth. So now we are losing control in every sphere of life. Thus, following an old law of social evolution that resistance confronts domination, empowerment, and reacts against powerlessness. And alternative projects challenge the logic embedded in the new global order. So now this new global order is being challenged in different parts of the world on different grounds, and increasing sense of disorder by people around the planet. People are now aware that through this new global order there are some disorders which are affecting our life in a negative manner. However, these reactions and mobilization, as is often the case in history, come in unusual formats and proceed through unexpected ways. So we see many kind of unusual activities and also unexpected methods used by the people. So there are three important movements if we talk about that how the new social order has been opposed, and these three social movements are related to opposition of the new global order, and they are very similar as far as the adverse. There are three important things which one should note it when we talk of the uh, social movements, and these are: number one, the identity of the movement. The identity of the movement is related to the that who are the people who are agitating, who are uh, trying to oppose or support any cause. So they are that is the they are that is identity. So the three important social movements which are uh, discussed at a length by one of the very uh, important sociologists, and that is Manuel Castells. In his work, the Power of Identity, he discussed at a length different kind of social movements. And he has taken three important case studies for explaining that how globalization is affecting the social movements. These are the first movement is Zapatistas uh, movement in Mexico, which taken place in 1990s, 1994. The second important social movement he has taken the American militia, that is the patriotic movement in that is also took place in last part of the century. And third is the Om Shinrikyo movement, a kind of a spiritual movement which took place in Japan, and that is also in last part of the last decade of the 20th century. These three movements, the first one was launched by the oppressed, excluded Indians, Mexicans. The Zapatistas was a region in Mexico, and most of the uh, sufferers of the policy of the government, because when they have made the accord, NAFTA accord, and with America. So this has, and before that, their struggle was going on since 1974. So for 20 years, they were struggling, and they were having that, they were not allowed, they were actually excluded, they were defaulted from the forests, and then they were settled at some other place after a long struggle. But in 1994, the government again desettled, tried to desettle them from that land, and then this has become a very big, and they have actually created a kind of insurgent army, and with weapons, and they like guerrilla, they started to struggle against the government. And in this, what is very interesting is that some uh, Maoists also joined this. So on the one hand were the peasants, then Maoists provided the leadership, and Catholic Church was also having sympathy with these protesters. And then they together, and one Maoist, Marco, who was leading this, although he was not belonging to that area, he was an urban scholar, a very assistant professor in a university, but he has, in fact, stayed there for about 10 years with these Indians, and then he has won their confidence, and then he make all the strategy and some training camp for military training camp, as you see in our northeast area and other area, there are insurgency groups. That kind of groups were created, and weapons were purchased. The people have sold out their houses and purchased weapons, and then they moved into the forest, and from there they started the guerrilla type of war against the government, because they felt that now they are not in a position to survive. So Catholic Church, which were working for education health for these groups, then Maoist activists, they also joined this. And this Maoist group started to make a global campaign and mobilization for this purpose. Although they have not committed much violence, but they used the weaponry as a symbolic gesture against the government as a rebellion, as a revolt, and which attracted the attention of the global media. So what is important that now media is used, and this is for the first time you can say that in a social movement the new communication technologies, that is internet, was used, and the messages were in real time, the videos and other messages, other means of communication were used to disseminate the information, and as a result the it has become, it has attracted the attention of the global media, and which resulted into mobilization of public opinion against the Mexican government. And finally, that government, it has affected the election also, and later on this group of have also tried to make a political party. As you can see in case of Ulfa, they have formed Assam Gan Parishad. So I think that media attention is very important today, and in era of globalization, new communication technologies are being used for transnational mobilization. And this we can see that recently in case of India, we can see that this farmers movement, you can see a similar kind of strategy as because time is very short, I will not explain in detail about this movement. If you are interested, you can go through the Manuel Castell's work, and he has discussed at a length social movements against the new global order, and he discussed in detail all the three social movements which have emerged against the new global social order. So the in farmers movement also you see that allegedly that leftist organizations are working, and they have uh, created a narrative, and particularly they may not be farmers, but for the cause of farmers they are campaigning and making propaganda. So I think that this is the strategy that they are also frustrated with the new global order which has emerged after 1990s, because now the only system, economic system that is emerging is the capitalist system and the corporate capitalism. So as their main enemy is this new global order, so whatever opportunity, wherever there is a criticism of the multinational corporations, as you see in case of farmers movement also, to whom they are opposing the government and the corporates, Adani, Ambani, they are the enemies, the adversaries are these global players. So it is this movement is also against certain policy of the government regarding the agriculture, but target is not only government, and they are saying that they have sold out the nation to the Adani and Ambani. This narrative, you know, is in use, and they are, this narrative is continuously you see for last 3 4 years that Modi is doing for Adani and Ambani. So similar kind of situation you can see the involvement of the Maoist, what is called, and the rightists say urban Naxal, they called them urban Naxals, and there both the narratives are going on. The government supporters are also there. So on media, their media war on that. So they both are mobilizing their support. Government and their supporters, they are also very active on social media, and the other party, they are also. And you see that how Rakesh Tiket's video have become viral overnight, and they mobilize the farmers across the nation in different states, and people start to move to Gazipur. So I think that new communication technologies are new instrument being used to draw media attention, and for that the those who are doing protest, they can adopt some unusual type of behavior, some unexpected ways for drawing media attention. And this is a process. Now you see that the Rakesh Tiket is going, calling panchayats in every state. He's mobilizing the people there. So it is not only media through personal, they are going and working and campaigning against the BJP in West Bengal, and they say that they will do it everywhere. So in this way, the techniques of mobilizations are now changing within the country and outside the country. And you see that in case of this farmers movement, the mobilization was not just confined to India, but it you can see in Canada, you can see in the USA, you can see in UK, the supporter of this movement were mobilized and they protested from there also. Although the government said no, no, some Khalistanis are involved, some anti-India forces are involved, but real analysis is that now we have transnational mobilization of the people in any protest movement, in any social movement. And new communication technologies play an important role in this process. So it is not just the traditional methods of mobilization are not much successful now. Otherwise, it will be confined to a particular local area or a regional movement. Even cannot be a national movement. It is very difficult to create a national movement. About 2 decades ago, most of the movements were regional movements. And you see there were farmers movement earlier also, but they were confined to a particular region. For example, if you see environmental movement, for example, the Chipko movement which launched in Uttarakhand, that was a local movement. Then Narmada Bachao movement, that was also confined to Madhya Pradesh. Similarly, in Northeast, you can see there have been a number of movement, insurgents movement also in Nagaland, in Mizoram, in Manipur. Still, there are some activities, but now there is a tendency to seek support from outside the country. That is international. That is transnational mobilization of support. Not only in terms of money, in terms of active participation, and in different way the people supports the cause of that particular movement. The second movement which Castells has discussed is American militia, and this movement was against the present federal government, and they were of the view that again the NAFTA was the cause, and that is there are certain policies, the globalization policies. They say that this will affect their wages, American labor's wages. This has been a great issue that migrants are coming and working at a lower wage, or multinational companies are outsourcing or establishing their factories in less developed countries because labor is cheap there, and therefore they will have more profit. And one of the problem why the globalization has been brought was the crisis of capitalism, as discussed by Wallerstein, that capitalism itself is in a crisis, and to resolve this crisis, now they are trying to make it globalized. So capital is moving from one part of the earth to another part of the earth, and they are establishing factory, and there are manufacturing hubs. For example, China has emerged as a manufacturing hub. In last, the Vietnam, Taiwan, and many other countries of the Asia, they emerged as one of the manufacturing countries. Now, India is also trying to, that is, emerging in this direction. In software industry and in pharmaceuticals, we have great achievements, but uh, in hardware, we are lagging behind than China. So now India is under Make in India program. They are trying to come up. So this has caused the a particular group in America, those who are not satisfied with this type of developments, and they say that in long run our interest will be affected. And it is also true, because this movement took place in 90s, but now we are aware that there is a instances of incidents of unemployment in USA also. And now, and it is was because of this that the conservative party uh, has come in power when Trump has become the president of USA. Although now there is a change of power, so I think this type of movement, but this movement which took place at the time was American militia, and they also used some arms to protest, to again to uh, draw the attention of media. Then third movement was Om Shinrikyo movement in Japan. It took place in Tokyo, and it was mainly an spiritual movement, and the leader of this movement was a spiritual leader, and he was of the view that the new global order will bring havoc for the whole world, and so there is a need to struggle against this new global order. And then to attract, and they were having clash with the police there. So one American federal government was their enemy, and they say that Japan is also moving towards the blind capitalism, and in the long run, that we will have to face a war-like situation as we have suffered earlier. So, in order to attract the attention of media, and he was also having some political aspirations. He wanted to become the prime minister of Japan, and he was having these aspirations. And for that, he started a gas attack uh, on in some trains, and in that a number of persons were killed. And then there was a clash with police, and it has attracted a lot of media attention for a very more than 1 year in Japan. So I think that transnational mobilization is important today in any social movements. Then we also see that there are irregular migrants in different parts of the world. After this the Syria war, a lot of refugees have entered in the Europe, particularly in Germany. and in France and in other parts of the Europe. First, they have opened the doors for these refugees, but later on there was opposition from the locals because they were of the view that this will disbalance the demographic composition of these countries, and religious composition will also be disturbed. So it was opposed, and in France there are certain consequences of also of this kind of liberal policies. So I think that uh, when there is some atrocities on these irregular migrants, they mobilize at transnationally because they are spread in different parts of the world, and through new communication technologies today it is not very difficult to mobilize the people. So these are important observations regarding this. But on the basis of these three movements, there are certain theoretical strengths which I would like to share with you. First is that if we look into these three movements, we find that the adversary is the same in all the three movements, and that is the global capitalism, that is as a consequence of NAFTA in case of Zapatistas in Mexico, then illegal PRI government, the political party PRI, their government was compromising the interest of these Indians, and identity were oppressed and excluded Indians and Mexicans, and the goal was to protect their dignity, democracy, and land. So, if we see from this perspective, the three movements analyzed here coincide in the identification of their adversary. It is a new global order, designated by Zapatistas as the conjunction of American imperialism and corrupt, illegitimate PRI government. Incarnated by international institutions, most notably the United Nations and the US federal government, in view of American militia. The American militia also identified almost the same institutions. While for OM, the global threat comes from a unified world government representing the interest of multinational corporations, US imperialism, and Japanese police. So they identified their adversary or enemies, these people. Thus, the three movements are primarily organized around their opposition to global order. To such an enemy, each movement opposes a specific principle of identity, reflecting the sharp differences between the three societies where they come from. Now we see that there are a specific principle for identity, and it was because the three societies having, there are differences, they are not same kind of society, different kind of society. So it will depend on the socio-cultural milieu of a society that what kind of strategy they will adopt. And for that, we have to see that what actually practice, what practices they adopt to protest. In the case of the farmers movement, you will also see that they have their own language, they have of which appeal to the people, and particularly Rakesh Tikait is very vocal in this, and he changed his strategy very frequently. Sometimes he say bakkal tar denge. This kind of vocabulary he used, and which appeal to his supporters, his followers. And other colloquial language they use कि गोला पानी देना पड़ेगा सरकार को. These are colloquial words which appeal to the masses. And also attract attention of the media. They go and ask, what is this? What term you are using? Because they are not knowing all these things. And this gives a particular media attention to them. So, and socio-cultural milieu was different for all these three society. The Japetas, they see themselves as Indians and oppressed Mexicans fighting for their dignity, their rights, their land, and the Mexican nation. In case of the militia, American citizens fighting for their sovereignty and for their liberties. So, for American liberties is very important. American, as expressed in the original godly American Constitution. As for Om, their identity principle is more complex. It is in fact their individual identity expressed in their bodies. Although such bodies share each other in the Guru's mind, it is the combination of physical individuality and reconstructed spiritual community. The Om movement is a little bit different from the other ones because it is more or less a spiritual movement, and in which he says that you keep yourself from your physical body and you connect spiritually through yoga with each other. So, if you go in the details, it is very interesting movement, and it is combination of physical individuality and reconstructed spiritual community. In each of these three cases, there is an appeal to authenticity in their identity principle, but with different manifestations. In a historical rooted broad community, that is the Indians of Mexico as part of Mexicans. If you see case of Mexicans, Indian Mexicans, they are historically rooted broad community. Then local or county communities of free citizens in case of American militia. The Americans, they are free citizens and they have county system and local identity. Each state has its own identities. And a spiritual community of individuals freed from dependence on their bodies. And these identities are based on cultural specificity and on desire for control over their own destiny. They are opposed to the global adversary on behalf of a higher societal goal, which in all three cases leads to integration between their specific identity and the well-being of the society at large. So, societal goal is also clear to them. Mexico, America, and surviving human mankind. These are the three goals for these three movements. Yet this integration is sought through fulfillment of different values for each movement. Social justice and democracy for all Mexicans was the criteria for integration of this Chapetas movement. Individual freedom from government domination for all American citizens in case of American militia, and transcendence of materiality through spiritual liberation in case of Om. These societal goals, however, are weakest element in each one of the three movements. So, because they are reactive and defensive rather than purveyors of a social project. They are not launching any societal project, but they are reactive, reactionary, and defensive. Even if they do propose visions of an alternative society, they are weak on this ground. The powerful impact of each of these movements has come to a large extent from their media presence. What is more important that how they mobilize, they use media in a very specific way and from their effective use of information technology. Media attention is sought or found by performing in the French anarchist tradition, briefly revived in May 1968 of La Action Exemplaire. A spectacular action is undertaken which, by its powerful appeal, even through sacrifice, calls people's attention to the movement's claim. If you are sacrificing your life, immediately media attention will be drawn to that and is calls people attention to the movement's claim and is ultimately intended to wake up the masses manipulated by propaganda and subdued by repression, forcing a debate on their claims and inducing people to participate movements expect to put pressure on governments and institutions, reversing the course of submission to the new world order. So in this way, why weapons are essential in the three movements, not as a goal, but as a sign of freedom or as an event trigger device, calling media attention. This media oriented strategy was particularly explicit and skillfully executive in the case of Zapatistas, who tried carefully to minimize violence and to work via the media and the internet to reach out to the world. But the paramilitary theatrics of militia and the deliberate exploitation of violent tactics or the threat of it to attract media attention are also a key component of American patriots. Even Ohm, distrustful of the media, did pay considerable attention to debates on television and to press reports, dedicating some of its best members to such tasks. And its gas attacks seems to have had the double purpose of verifying the doomsday prophecy and of diffusing in the world their warning through the media. It would seem that new protest movements cast their messages and project their claims in the form of symbolic politics, characteristics of informational society. Their media skills are fundamental fighting tools, while their manifestation and their weapons are means to create an event worth reporting. Now you see that there is a trend now in any movement or any event also, any protest event or any incident, immediately on media you will find their spokespersons come and they start to speak. They may not be official spokespersons, sometimes their supporters also come. In media you see that in case of Sushant Singh Rajput case, there were some persons who were not directly involved with Shiv Sena, but they were supporter of Shiv Sena, and on the behalf of that they were speaking in the debates on media. So this is a very common thing that in a social movement they have their spokesperson who have to manage media and use it for propaganda. And you see in the debates, they try to attract the attention of the masses. So they will argue in some way strategically and they will oppose everything of the opposite party. So you see the debates are nothing but become propaganda channels for government as well as protesters. New communication technologies are fundamental for these movements to exist. Indeed, they are their organizational infrastructure. Without the internet, fax, and alternative media, the patriots would not be an influential network, but a disconnected, powerless series of reactions. Without a communication capacity enabling the Zapatistas to reach urban Mexico and the world in real time, they may have remained an isolated, localized guerrilla force. As many of those still fighting in Latin America, Ohm did not make much use of the internet simply because the internet was hardly present in Japan in the early 1990s. But they did use extensively fax and video and computers as crucial tools in building a highly controlled yet decentralized organizational network. Besides, they were trying to uh, they were trying a technological breakthrough by developing electronically stimulating direct communication from brain to brain. The revolutionary cells of the information age are built on flows of electrons. Alongside their similarity, three movements also display profound differences linked to their historical and cultural origin and to the level of technological development of their societies. So it is what is the level of technological development in a given society that will decide the whole organizational strategy of the social movement. A sharp distinction must be drawn between the articulate political project of Zapatistas, the confusion and paranoia of most militia groups, and the apocalyptic logic of Om. Also, this is also relates to the difference between the eschatological component in both the militia and the Om, and the absence of such views of the end of time in the Zapatistas. Thus, specific social context, cultures, and historical processes and level of political consciousness do determine substantial differences in the process of insurgency, even triggered by a similar cause. So, thus we see that the identity, adversary, and societal goals are important elements if we want to analyze or to study a social movement. In case of the transnational social movement, we have to see that how they are able to mobilize the people across the globe or at planetary level. So, in this process nowadays, the new communication technologies, and particularly social media, new social media, and which is very different the media we were having a few decades ago, that is mass media communication. That was just one way transmission of the message through print media or broadcast media or audiovisual media. The audience was at receiving end, and but now we have social media which is highly interactive, and a global communication system is emerging. It is not just economic global order, but we also have global communication system as well. And tomorrow I will discuss the new social media and how it is affecting the social processes. So I will stop here now, and now you can ask your questions and observations if you have any. Ah, yes. Okay. Hmm. 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 It is true that it is not pan India movement, and it is because of the differences. I have already told you that the socio cultural milieu, maybe in some country like in Mexico also, it was not the all Mexico having this problem, but it was a problem of Indians who were residing in some forest areas. So because of, and they were having a community ownership, so it was a problem of a small section of the people, but they mobilized the media and then they created public opinion that is transnational throughout the world, and then they pressurized the government to compromise. And because they were also militant type, having weapons, they used weapons also. And you know, the Maoists were backing up them. So Maoist means the weapon. So in that way they use these weapons to attract media attention. In case of this farmers movement, also this problem is, particularly related to the UP, Haryana, and Western Uttar Pradesh, because during the Green Revolution these were the areas in which this, the MSP was uh, introduced to motivate the farmers to have high production of the wheat and paddy. So now, and sugarcane was already there as a cash crop. So these are the three main cash crops: the wheat, paddy, and paddy was not in Western UP and Haryana, but now after this irrigation facility, pumping sets, this technological transformation has enabled them. Even in Uttar Pradesh, which was dry land farming, in Punjab also it was a dry land farming area, the wheat suitable for wheat. But now they are also growing paddy. Paddy was mainly a crop in coastal areas and waterlogging areas of northeast. But now the farmers of western UP, Haryana, and Punjab, they are growing a lot of paddy because they are taking three crops or four crops in a year. So they are using this. So they have a different socio-cultural milieu. So this, they have specific problems because they have not shifted to other problems. When there is overproduction, naturally the cost will go down in the market and they have to face problems. So now they say that no, government should purchase all the production, or they should fix a minimum support price that nobody will purchase. To some extent it is a genuine demand, but it is not a practical, because legally government cannot force the trader, because it is trader, whether he is willing or not, it cannot be said, okay, even if you have made a law that no one will support, and suppose no one goes, so then government has to purchase, and government has not capacity to purchase all the food grains. They can purchase only limited quantity of food grain. Otherwise the, a very large amount of the budget will go in purchasing the crop. So this is a problem. The government is also facing problem, the farmers are also facing problem, and again that it is the demand of the global, new global order, that agriculture should be open for market. So I think it is a very similar situation, that kind of Mexico. And here also media is playing an important role. The Maoist, they are not coming with weapon, but they are. It is a very interesting thing that Maoist in Mexico, they were struggling for democracy, and here in India also, the all the leftists, they talk about they want to save democracy in India. So it is a very interesting situation that now the communist and the Maoist, they are talking of democracy. So because of different socio-cultural milieu, because India is not a homogeneous society, heterogeneous. A lot of differences in different regions. So situation of every region in the northeast, this is not a problem because there is no surplus uh, production in northeast. A lot of rice is imported from other states. If you are living in, then you are basmati rice, then Parmal rice is the most popular rice in northeast as far as I know. And that is produced in Punjab. Punjab rice is exported to other parts of the country. So they don't have this problem. They are the uh, even the eggs is consumed a lot in northeast, but eggs are coming from Hyderabad. The northeast are not able to produce sufficient eggs also. Fish are also coming from outside. So point is that there is a need of a comprehensive agriculture policy and to revise it, because we have not paid attention that this MSP program was launched in 1960s. Now we are in 2021. So we have to change. We have to transform our policies according to the changes which are taking place at the global level, because we have to survive in this world. Any other? I would like to give answer of your question. Yes, Manoj Kumar. Yeah, Manoj. Your voice is not clear. Yes, please repeat your question. The social movement is not clear. Hmm. In the meantime, I can take some other question. Which movement? That is farmers movement. Farmers movement. The antithesis. The social movement is always antithesis. That, yes, because they come with an alternative ideology. They have some societal goal, or a new social order, or they want to restate the earlier order, or want to bring new social order. So that is the rival party joined that movement. In fact, it is not their movement. They use this opportunity to mobilize their vote bank. So that is the purpose of any movement, to mobilize the media propaganda to seek support and to pressurize the government. So opposition party, if they join, there is no crime to join or to support a movement in a democratic society. They can do it, but then government ruling of party or government will say no. Though political opposition parties are doing all this, so it is just opposition of the government. So they will try to dilute the significance of the both the parties. It is not one way propaganda. Propaganda is from both the sides. Yes, Suman Mukherjee. At present, there is no alternative, and that is the major problem, that the socialistic model of development is totally, failed in most of the countries of the Europe. In Eastern Europe, there were a number of socialist countries. In USSR, they are also now facing problem, and they are also trying to liberalize their economy. And the socialist economy has certain practical problems, and main reason for the downfall of these countries was the information revolution. Actually, they could not face this, and because they were able to control the information through the dictatorship. But information revolution was in that they could not control the information. And it was because of the new communication technologies which penetrate, in most of the Middle East countries, there also you see Tahrir Square type of phenomenon. And they are mobilizing the people, and flow of information, the transnational flow of information is very smooth, and no government can control this. And I think that this communication revolution which has taken place in the world in last 3 decades has tremendous implication for socio-cultural transformation. It is not just economic. Our style of life, that 2 decades ago when somebody was going abroad, so people, the relatives are asking, okay, हमारे लिए कुछ bring something for us from there, some imported item. But today no one is asking, and if somebody is going out, what to purchase, everything is available here. You go in the mall, every brand is available and at a cheaper rate. In India, it is cheaper than if you purchase in, Japan, or you go in Canada or US. It is costly there. Same thing is very costly there. And but if you purchase it in India, it is cheaper. So why somebody will purchase? So I visited in Toronto the mall. So there I found the razor which I purchased here in 350 rupees. That was about about 1200 rupees there, because there I have to pay in the dollars, Canadian dollars. So it is more costly because our currency is not so strong in comparison to Canadian dollars. For them it is nothing, but for us it is costly. So now things are available here, because now you see the most of the shopping insights, the online shopping website, they have two addresses. One is like Amazon.com. If you open that, then every price you will get in dollars. But if you log in Amazon.in, then every price will be in rupees, locally. And sometimes if you purchase anything, a book, they will say it will take 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So it is not available in India. They will bring it from UK or from USA, from wherever it is available in their network. So I think now things are available globally, and this communication information drive economy has affected uh, the whole process of shopping in a tremendous way. So we have information economy, information based economy. Economy cannot operate without information. अगर आपके पास, if you don't receive SMS, I have not received SMS, where is my consignment? So time to time you can track the traveling of your consignment, that and in real time you will get the information. They will inform you that it will be delivered to you before that, or it may be late. They will inform you through SMS. So this kind of informatization is very important in establishing the new global order. Any other question? 14 minutes are still there. No question? Mm, mm. Okay. Mm. Yes.
from Nagaland, and I take this privilege on behalf of HRDC Nehru and also my dear fellow participants of this refresher course to convey our heartfelt gratitude to our highly esteemed speaker, Professor Virendra Pal, for consenting to deliver this lecture on globalization and transnational mobilization. Sir, your highly informative talk has widened our perspective on the dynamics of various social movements in India and around the world in this era of globalization. It has been an honor and pleasure to listen to you, sir. And we also look forward to another informative and highly thought-provoking session tomorrow that will be conducted in the third session. Once again, thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me for
Thanks, sir.
this lecture and provide me an opportunity to speak with the participant of this group. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.